Right, Lloydie, let's go. Carlton and St Kilda. We want to have a good look at this. What has happened in the second half of these two teams?
It's been disappointing in the second half of the season. So we want to look at the two clubs and where it's fallen apart for them. So Carlton were 9-3 after round 13. St Kilda 8-3 after round 12. And 3 wins and 5 losses since for the Blues. 3 wins and 6 losses since for the Saints. The Saints haven't beaten a top 8 side since the bye. And the Blues are 2-2. And I think the Blues are under the pump here, Ross. They've got Melbourne and Collingwood going as underdogs. No Patrick Cripps. And we want to take a look first at where things have turned for Carlton.
Yeah, well, Cripps is obviously a tipping point. But I think it started with Wiedering. He was out for 6 weeks an AC joint. And they're one-wood. They're A-grade midfield. And we can have a look here even statistically. It ties into the midfield and missing Kennedy and missing Hewitt. Yeah. So it's been thinned out. But you can just see the tackle differential, which is a bit about desire and effort, has dropped away. But their efficiency, and McKay's dropped off. And that starts out of the centre square bounce clearances dropping right away from 1st to 14th. So they were a territory game, get it into the tall forwards and score. As that's fallen away, they haven't been able to find another way within the game. Everyone talks about layers, but basically you score off turnover, kick-ins and stoppages. So stoppages strong, kick-ins are negligible. Their turnover game hasn't been good enough.
When you think, Ed, of Carlton at the start of the year, you can think of this big, powerful midfield. And then remember the small forwards. Everyone was raving about Durden and Owies and Fisher and these guys and what they were doing. That's now, when you lose midfield, then that drops off. Harry Mackay's not getting supply. He's dropped off. So it's all falling apart.
Well, supply is important. They've gone from number 5 on entries to 11th. But And McKay's died on the vine because of that. Is he competing strongly enough? I don't think so. And then I think they needed to get more creative at match committee. Stocker was drafted a young mid playing back. Don't roll out the same old names. Put Stocker in there. Dow was in good form. He come in, didn't quite deliver on the weekend. But they didn't tag Lockie Neal on the weekend. Your midfield's been decimated and you still just go and run around without an adjustment. I think Essendon learned that. They started to send a tagger in and knock them over.
So the week before Lockie Neal was tagged, Richmond got up, turned their season around by closing down what they knew. And Lockie Neal, it's not like he's a first-year
That's a great
player.
point you make it. Don't get beaten by what you know. And I think that occurred. They went to play their style, but sometimes you've got to say, well, we need to modify here. You need to give them a hook, an emotional hook, and a game plan hook that's a little bit... And I think they're betwixt and between the two ruckmen and Jack Silvani. They played 2 in the wet over in Adelaide, and then they go up against a really big team and they play the 1, and Pitnet's in for 1. So it's a little bit confusing. The match committee got to get creative and the players have got to get their desire back.
So they just have to win one of their last 2. It's a big if, but at least it's there for them. It's all in their hands, whereas St Kilda, they need results to go their way and they've got tough opposition as well. We want to look at the drop-off, though, of some of their players who are going well at the start of the year. And for me, Jade Gresham, they lack a lot of class. And once Jade Gresham left the side, I think St Kilda's performance has fallen. Dougal Howard's obviously a big player, but again, Max King has dropped off since Gresham has gone out of the team. Yeah, Higgins has fallen away from the start of the year. So suddenly they look very mediocre, Caro, as a playing group and a list, and they're stuck in the middle as they always seem to be.
But are we harshly judging both teams by their good starts? Because I had Carlton at the bottom of the 8 at the start of my year. I had St Kilda just outside the 8 at the start of my year. So if they hadn't been so good early, I don't think we would have been as harsh as we are now.
I think, it highlights their lists. At the end of the day, you're right, their best list, best available, they can cut it to 8-2, 8-3, but they're thin. They're thin. Howard, Wiedering, same thing. They lose midfield. Gresham, and they lost Jack Steele as well for that ACL. So they don't run deep enough. They need deeper list.
Guys, let's roll the vision. Could Carlton's season hang on the appeal tomorrow night? Patrick Cripps. First of all, Lloydie and Caro and Rossi, tell me, does he get rubbed out?
Yes, he does for me, Ed.
What year were you in, Ed? 1985 play on.
Right now, where concussion is becoming a bigger word in the AFL and possible all sorts of class actions maybe in the future, etc., etc. Not that they take that into account, but what do you reckon? You say
is there any chance at all to get a reduction of a week?
I don't think so. It was always going to be 2 or 0.
Yep.
And to appeal, you need new evidence. I'd like to know what it is.
I don't think he's got any chance, but, you know, they do really need him. And that act actually sort of seemed to spark them, I hate to say, on the weekend.